we're in between races. We had an off week after, what was it, 3 weeks of just like absolute madness. So we got a little bit of time to catch our breath before we hit Vegas next week. And we thought it would be a good time to kind of just do a little bit of a rapid fire and kind of cover a lot of the other things that have been going on the past few weeks, because as I mentioned, these races have just been absolutely nuts. But now we kind of have a chance to catch up, and we're going to hit some topics, chat about them, and we'll see where it takes us.
It's lights out and away we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We're back. And by we, I mean Drew and me, and that's it. We're missing Ed and Thomas. We got the skeleton crew gone today. And Drew, any thoughts before we get started?
Yeah, it was a back-to-back kind of scenario with those last races, and they were some pretty heavy hitters. Like, I enjoyed them. They all had their, ups and downs, obviously, but it definitely gave every one of the fans something that they needed. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Vegas. Vegas had its debut last year, and this year I'm very much excited for it because it far surpassed any expectation that I had for the race last year. And yeah, I'm here for it, man. Let's go, man in the blue shirt.
All right, let's go. Well, I was, and I got a little bit of hate last week on YouTube. So if you guys want to go check out the comments, please do check out last week's episode, and we'll see how many people we can anger this week. With just two of us here.
I'm not going to try to intentionally anger people. Maybe I just have a punchable face. So that can happen here and there. I did take some of the criticism into account, and I will not be posting any subtitles on our next few episodes and see what happens. But shout out to everybody who gives us feedback, man. We're not professionals here. We're just a couple of dudes having a good time. And ultimately we love Formula One. And so we just wanted to chat about Formula One. If you guys want to be here for it, awesome. If you don't, awesome.
That's it, man. For everyone that was in the comments saying that we don't know what we're talking about, I mean, you're kind of right. But we're still here and you're still listening. So,
and if you're not right, at least you're not wrong.
There you go. I don't even know what that means. If you're not right, you're not wrong. All right, let's get started. So we have a whole list here of stuff we're going to talk about. I was going through this list, and I'm going to just preempt this list by saying I hate almost all of these things. Everything we talk about, almost all of them, I hate. I think fucking 6 out of 7 are fucking bullshit. So let's start off with the first bullshit topic. Alpine switched to Mercedes. As we all know, they've had a rough few years, coming from Renault now to Alpine in terms of branding. They're a factory team. They were a storied team in Formula One. And now they're just bailing on the engine program and going Merc. How do you feel about this?
I have mixed feelings about this. Right off the top of my head, I want to say, what a cop-out. You have the ability to do this. You are a manufacturing works team. Just be better. You know what I mean? You've done this for a while. And ever since at least I started watching Formula One, Renault was never the best team, but they were not the worst team. And so I can see the digression of where they're going, and I can understand wanting to just reach out for a lifeline. And, Mercedes is there to hand them one and obviously make a couple of buckaroonies on the side. But ultimately, just be better. Put the time and the work into the engine and do better and be better. And I think there was kind of some signals that, have played out over the last 24 months. And that to me was all the celebrity endorsing stuff. They're the only car that's pulling movies onto their liveries. They're the only ones looking to sell portions of their team to some celebrities just to get any sort of notoriety. So obviously they're not in a good spot in many ways. Their management team has been, a revolving door, to say the least. So, when you have the only consistent part of your team be the drivers, that's an inherent problem. That's deep down intrinsic problem. And I think that that if this is what Alpine needs to do in order to kind of dig themselves out of a hole, maybe at one point they might revert, but they might get this Merc power engine and, Bob's your aunt. Everything kind of just figures it out and they can gel at some level, right? So whatever they need to do to get more competitive, I'm here for it because, ultimately I just want to see 10 teams gunning for the top, but this is a scapegoat as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And I think I to your point where you just mentioned, if that's what they have to do to get competitive, then whatever. And I don't know if I agree with that, because I feel like if you can't, I feel like you just gotta, if you're Renault, if you're Alpine, and you're a works team, and you have this history in the sport, and you like, Renault is one of the biggest automakers in the world. Like they are absolutely massive globally. Like, I think you just gotta eat shit for a bit and figure it out. Because right now it feels like Renault, or I keep saying Renault, same thing. Renault, Alpine. When you're playing video games, you don't really know what you're doing. Like, you're playing like NHL or whatever, or you're playing Street Fighter, and you just mash buttons and hope something works. That's what I feel like Alpine's doing right now. They're just mashing the keyboard, and they're waiting until something kicks in and something works. And it's just, I feel like it's just a disservice to the history of this team. And it's been going downhill for, what's it been, at least the last 5 years. I feel like
At least,
the
yeah.
exit of like Cyril, back when they brought Danny Rick on and then Cyril left, I feel like that was kind of like the start of that instability. And I'm not sure if it's just become purely like, I don't know if you ever want to call a Formula One team like a profit center, but if for like Renault, they're just looking at numbers and they just want to make shit work financially. But I feel like the way that they're going about it is just doing a disservice to the brand and the heritage. And I think if we lose them as a works team and as a true kind of manufacturer, that it's not a good move for Formula One in general. So I just think it's kind of, what is the easiest way out right now? And they see Merck as that option, but I don't know, it's just disappointing. And I think you just have to try and rebuild. Even when they had Otmar there.
Yeah.
Right. And he was really, I feel like I've heard some interviews with him, and they were really undermining his leadership in terms of trying to build it up from the ground up. And I don't know if it's just, C-suite, executives getting impatient, if they just want to, again, hit that bottom line, but they don't seem to be operating the team from a, competition first standpoint. Because I feel like this move with engines is just purely financial.
I think, what James Vowles is currently doing at Williams is what Otmar wanted to do at Alpine. And I think he just got handcuffed by top brass before he was able to do any of that stuff. Like, I think he had that same kind of like, all right, let's go back to the fundamentals. Let's bring this from the ground up, like you said. And I think the wool got pulled over his eyes before he was able to make any of those real moves. And it's unfortunate. And like, if you're going to start selling off bits and parts of your team to celebrities or consortiums or whoever wants to buy into it, and you have a big manufacturer and team begging to be in Formula One with Cadillac Andretti, I don't not see why this isn't a thing. You know what I mean? Like, you'd assume a team like Haas or Williams that's been struggling at the back of the grid for a long, long time, who's obviously doing better now, so we can see that things work if you just work it. And now obviously like Alpine looks like they're the most hurting team, right? So I don't know. It doesn't seem like they tried hard enough. I think they gave up too early.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that's going to be coming in for 2026. And we'll see, because, I feel like there's been a lot of talk that, Merck might have one of the stronger engine programs in 2026. There's a lot of concern about Red Bull and their Ford power plant, how that's coming along. So we got a couple of years to wait and see. But, I really do hope they come back and they become a true full-fledged manufacturer at some point. Maybe when they have some better leadership at the top. What else was announced today was that we're going to have like a grand Formula One launch event. What is it, be like a Netflix special? It's almost going to be like a supersized Vegas event. If you remember Vegas from last year, I feel like they did something very similar, where it was like, pomp and pageantry, and drivers, weren't they lifted up from like beneath the stage or something like that? So they're doing a massive event for the launch of the 2025 season at the O2 Arena in London. It's supposed to bring fans closer to the teams and drivers. Is this something ongoing that they're planning on doing, or is it just to kind of
I think it's a wait and see idea. I think it's a wait and see. Like, we'll see how this goes, if there's money in it, if, the team's got anything out of it. I think it's very similar to Miami, where they did like the WWE wrestler walk-in speeches with LL Cool J when all the racers came in, and then people shit all over it, and then they're like, "Yeah, let's scrap that." You know what I mean? So like maybe it's one of those where like we're just gonna try it out, see what hits, what it doesn't hit. I like it. Like if they did something like that, you know, in every city, when the whatever, would people go see it? 100%, man. 100%. I would equate it something similar to like when you go see like a fighter's weigh-in or something like that. You know, it's like the pre-fight before the fight, and like you get to see all the people and the animosity between them or whatever. And if it's going to get the fans closer to the drivers and the teams and the cars, and I don't see why not. Because the way I see it, and I think a lot of people see it, is that like Formula One's a very untouchable sport. Like you never get close unless you have big dollars. You know what I mean? Like you never get close enough to these teams in the sport and stuff like that. We're like, you know, when you're at a hockey game, wow, how Canadian am I just to compare it to a hockey game immediately? But when you're at a hockey game and stuff, like you can sit right behind the glass. You know what I mean? If you go a little bit early, you can like shake the players' hands and stuff like that. And like you can go down to the MasterCard Arena in Mimico here and watch the guys play for free on during practices and stuff like that. And like I just find that, you know, more sports teams are more approachable, and the F1 team is not. So, or the F1 teams are not. So if this is what it's going to take to get the fans closer, obviously London's got a big F1 following. So why not, man? I'm here for it. I'm actually looking forward to see how ridiculous this spectacle is going to be. I hope it's not cheesy. It's going to be a little cheesy. Let's get real.
It's going to be 100% cheesy. And, you know, to your point of bringing fans closer, do you actually think that something like this is going to bring fans closer to the sport and to the drivers? Is this really the way to do it, to put on some massive arena show in London where it's just it's going to be overly produced, in my opinion. There's going to be like a ton of cheese. No one's getting close to anyone. It's going to be pre-canned bullshit F1 questions that they're asking drivers and team principals and things like that. And I think it's just going to be, you know what? I think it's just going to be like a big, massive circle jerk. And
do you think that's amazing? The visual is incredible. Yeah. The visual is incredible.
Can you imagine Toto and Christian just standing there next to each other.
No, you know what? The more that you started saying that, the more I was agreeing with you. I'm like, this isn't going to bring anything closer to the fans. I just tried to imagine, you know, something that would like equate to this kind of scenario, and immediately that popped in my head is like when Apple releases their new iPhone or something. You know what I mean? You put everyone in this stadium, you like have this guy who's got a PowerPoint presentation behind them. It's so rehearsed. They're doing these like fake live demo things or whatever. And like, does anyone in that crowd get closer to the iPhone? No. You know what I mean? No. They still got to wait their turn until everything else and come pay to play like everybody else, right? So, you know what? I retract my statement. I'm going to be a bandwagon jumper and jump right on your bandwagon, Walker.
You know, I'm wondering, so there's a couple other issues I have with this. One is, and it's actually interesting because I want to talk about this a little bit more, you know, obviously having it hosted in London, O2, obviously, you know, the UK is a massive center for Formula One. So many teams are based there. I think outside of Ferrari and Sauber, I'm trying to think who else is based there. I think most of them are based there. But I digress. But I feel, so you have it in this massive stadium. You have it in London, UK, very obviously UK focused. Is this something that they would ever take elsewhere? Would they then go to all the other, you know, major centers throughout the circuit? Because to bring fans closer to it, like, you know, I feel like obviously, I don't know where I'm going with this. I just don't like it. I just hate it. Like I said, I'm going to hate most of the things on this list, and I just don't like this.
Is it because you're a purist at heart, and anything that makes Formula One less sporting and more spectacle is just like, I'm not having it?
I'm a purist at heart, 100%. And it's not even this. It's just there's something that just feels disingenuous about it. Maybe that's what I'm having an issue with.
Okay, that I can get behind. Yeah.
Maybe I would rather see, and maybe it's a financial thing. Maybe, you know, if they can kind of consolidate some funds for all the teams to show up in one location and bring their cars one place, they consolidate some funds, some expenses. Maybe there's something to it there. But I would much rather see, you know, individual teams pick different locations throughout their schedule and really reward fans in those areas, and create like a truly, intimate, we'll call it an intimate event, with a couple of, 10, 20,000 people, where you can actually like get close to the team that you love.
Gotcha.
Instead of just packing a bunch of people in a massive stadium to see some overly produced hype propaganda that really doesn't serve anyone.
So let's play this out. So let's take somebody like Aston Martin. And I say that because they have a Canadian driver. His name is Lance Stroll. We'll get to him. But okay, so let's play this out. And they're going to go to somewhere like the Rogers Centre, Skydome, whatever you guys want to call it. And the team's going to come in. They're going to be on the ground floor. And like, is it like the auto show? And you just kind of like buy tickets and you get to like walk through and see the cars and like maybe some of the gear. And like you get to like meet and greet, buy some $100 signed photos and like shake the driver's hand. And then, you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's playing out?
Earlier, you and I went to this year, we went to the F1 experience in Toronto.
Yeah, we did. Hell yeah.
I thought that was a really, really well produced event. Like, it was interactive. It brought like tons of like, equipment and memorabilia. And to me, that really got the fans, as a fan, close to Formula One. You had a bunch of race suits, you had interactive videos, you had, old cars, you had engines, you had stuff like that.
Yeah.
If each team kind of produced their own F1 experience once a year in a different city around the world, where then you have, and maybe it's not even 10,000, right? I don't even know are there that many people that would show up for every team, right? But you just have these more intimate experiences where people can actually get close, where you have Q&As with some of the drivers that take actual questions from actual people. I know there's obviously dangers to that, but you don't have to live stream the thing either, right? Or not at least live, right? You can always edit it down, but it just still feels out of touch. And I don't feel like packing 100,000 people in a stadium brings you closer to it.
You think they're going like more Hollywood Oscar, less like...
Yeah, it's just, it just feels disingenuous. I want F1 experience Ferrari. F1 experiences Aston Martin, right?
You know what? I would travel for that.
100%.
Like if I think hypothetically Ferrari did that in the obvious one's Italy. You know what I mean? Like I might travel to go see that in the off season or something like that. Like because that would be cool enough for me to make an excuse and at least beg the wife to go do it.
You know what would be really cool? So you have the drivers, you have the principals. It would be really cool to have sit downs with like some of the head engineers.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Have some of the head engineers. Yeah, aerodynamicists, like sit down, talk about the car, talk about the technical stuff. So you get like the real enthusiasts for the sport, people who can appreciate the technical aspect and not just like the entertainment aspect.
Do you know how much those tickets would cost, Walker? They would be astronomical.
Why would they? So here's the other thing. Why would they have to be? Right? Here's another opportunity for these teams that, they make. It's an expensive sport. We talked about that.
Yeah,
right? It's untouchable for a lot of people. To attend a race is untouchable for a lot of people.
True,
right?
Fair enough.
But to host one of these events, maybe this is a time for teams to, quote unquote, give back to their fans, right? And not juice them on the ticket, not juice them on all this memorabilia and merch that you can buy, right? Maybe this is an opportunity to, whether it's through giveaways, raffles, whatever, not necessarily giving away the tickets for free, but doing at just a fair price where you can go interact with the team, engineers, aerodynamicists, who knows, whatever, drivers, like all that stuff. But I feel like that would be the kind of event that would actually get people closer to the sport and really convert some of these casual Netflix fans into hardcore people that are going to spread that F1 gospel.
I like that. I'm not even going to touch that. When you end a sentence with F1 gospel, bro, that's it. That's a wrap on that segment.
That's it.
That's a wrap.
On to the next one. Okay, the next thing I hate. F1's possible calendar changes to impact European races. So you just asked if I'm a purist, and I am. And now they're talking about cycling through tracks like Spa and Monza and Silverstone. Hate.
Okay.
Hate.
Okay. Let me throw this right back right away then. What do you hate about it?
I just like those tracks.
Oh, gotcha.
I just, and not even that, but I love personally, I love the heritage races.
I'm with you.
I think if I feel like you lose some of that, and again, just my generation as a fan, if everything is like a Miami and a Vegas and even in Austin to an extent, I feel like you lose some of that nostalgia and that heritage of the sport. And I really like that. And Silverstone and Spa are two of my favorite tracks, regardless, because I think they're just amazing motorsport venues.
Yeah.
So that's what I hate about it.
You really picked on the U.S. races there. You went from like Vegas, Miami, and then you bringed in Austin just in case you weren't sure if you hated the U.S. races enough. Yeah, Austin's kind of like that too. Yeah, man. Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I agree. I see what you're saying. I think there's a lot of contractual stuff that goes on because, like, remember when Imola got flooded and they were like, "Are we going to be coming back here?" And then I remember Spa was back on that table and they were saying, "Hey, we got 24 races in the calendar. Like, we can't keep adding new ones." And now they're talking about going back to Africa, which I think is really, really cool. But like, something's got to give, right? And so, like, I think if you put a couple of these circuits on like their own little mini circuit, so like every other year you go to Spa and then you replace that with this one, and then the next year like one of the other races is on like this give and go thing, so that like you get to kind of pepper in some new stuff while also keeping as much of the heritage as possible. Because I'm with you, like a lot of these tracks, like I look forward to every year, and as I've gotten more and more and more into Formula One, I have the track calendar on my wall for 2023, and like when you're looking at these, you're like, man, like I don't want to lose any of these, right? And so, ultimately, something's got to give. Then you got tracks like Monaco, and we talked about this after the Monaco Grand Prix. I think we even talked about it before the Monaco Grand Prix. Like, is there still room for it on the calendar because of like, it's obvious intricate issues that they have with, the size of the cars of these days, and like nobody's passing. So qualities means everything. But like, I look forward to Monaco every single year. And like, is it part of the spectacle that like you get to see the celebrities and like, the beautiful culture there and all that kind of stuff? My brother even went to Monaco this year to watch the Formula One race.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. Right. Like that's some bucket list stuff. And like,
yeah,
he had to get colon cancer and think he was going to die from it in order for him to book the tickets. He didn't die. He doesn't have colon cancer anymore. He's in remission. It's all good. But like,
okay.
He immediately
Did he have colon cancer?
Yeah, it happened. Yeah, that was a real thing.
Okay.
Yeah, he got it, and he's like, "Oh my god, I could die. I'm gonna go book." And he booked like a ridiculous trip took a yacht to Monaco because he's like, "I want to do this before I die." And then
That's
like
amazing.
a month and a half later, they're like, "Yeah, we got it all, man. You're good." And he's like, "Fuck, I already put this. Like, I've already paid for the trip." But like, that you have to almost need to die in order to book a trip to Monaco. So like that's the kind of pressure that we put on these races. And like, I don't want to see it off the calendar, but like, do I think that other races and other tracks need to get peppered in here in order to kind of see? Cause like, from what I've heard the drivers talking about, more than 24 races in a calendar season is just not happening, dude. It's just like, it's too much, like for logistics. And like, I remember even the COVID, what did we get? 19 races that season or something like that. Didn't they race one of the Middle Eastern countries twice? They just drove it backwards?
I don't think they drove it backwards. I know they did Austria 2 weeks in a row or 3 weeks in a row at one point during COVID. They kind of had like Austria.
What's the Doha circuit?
Well, I'm just looking at the schedule. So I'm going to tell you which tracks they can ditch. This is what they can get rid of.
Okay.
So if we're looking to pepper in some new tracks, which I agree, different locations, I'm all for it. They should get rid of Miami. They should get rid of the Emilia Romagna. And the last one they can ditch. Ooh, what's the last one? Do you have any suggestions?
So I was right.
I'm thinking Saudi, but I'm on the fence about Saudi. But definitely Miami. Definitely Emilia Romagna. And I don't know, maybe China? Japan's got to stay. I could lose to
Japan. I hate driving in Japan.
You mean on like Formula One, like 2024?
Yeah. Oh, no. In my F1 car that I keep in the back of my pocket. Yes, on the video game.
On the video game. Okay.
But take this in. So during the COVID time, they did 2 races in Bahrain.
Okay, yeah.
They did it
I like Bahrain. Bahrain can stay. I said Bahrain can stay.
But they did it twice. They did it on the 29th and on the 6th, and they just literally drove the track backwards because we didn't have enough races. I'm pretty sure, from what I see here, I don't remember if this is 100% sure, but did they do the same thing at Silverstone?
No, I don't think Silverstone, but they did definitely in Austria. Anyways,
whatever. It's what it is.
Yeah. But anyways, there are lots of other tracks to ditch before they start touching tracks like Spa and Silverstone. So
what was the original question or point? I just want to make sure we answered that because I know you said I hate this point because.
So we were talking about F1's possible calendar changes impacting European races because Stefano Domenicali talks about a rotational schedule starting in 2026.
I don't hate it. I guess the question was, show me, make me love it.
Make me love it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
make me love it.
I mean, I'm not going to hate it, pending the tracks that get rotated.
Fair enough. And I think
they're not going to rotate.
They're smart enough too. They're going to know the ones that everyone will be cheesed. But then I said, there's a contractual thing because I know Spa, they were running at a thing and then they signed for a 1 year and so there's obviously things that we don't know as a general public and they know because they signed those contracts.
I'm not worried about those details though. That doesn't concern me.
But it should. It really should.
It doesn't concern me.
Yeah. Okay.
All the people on YouTube are going to be like, bro, don't you know, man? There's contracts.
Yeah.
Blue contracts, bro.
Yeah. Blue shirt boy.
That's not my problem.
You don't even know anything, bro. Yeah, we got hated hard, man. If I learned anything from Joe Rogie, it's do not live in the comments. Do not look in the comments.
Absolutely not. But you know what? Whatever, man. Eyeballs are eyeballs. Thanks for watching. Next, okay, I really fucking hate this.
I'm so excited. I don't know where you're going.
Absolutely irks me. Kit Kat becomes an official F1 sponsor. What the fuck? Have you seen the mock-ups?
What does that mean? Besides the obvious. Oh, I also heard too, or not heard, but I've seen that Rolex is out. LVMH is in. Louis Vuitton is in.
I saw that.
I can get behind that. I think they're going to have some sick swag with it.
Whatever. That doesn't bother me as much. LVMH, Rolex, it's probably going to be Tag. Tag is going to take over the official timing sponsor, probably. And again,
is Tag owned by LVMH?
Yeah. Tag Heuer. So they're going to be the timing sponsor and they have tons of heritage in the sport. Not mad about it. But Kit Kat, this just ties into all the bullshit about O2, 100,000 people, spectacle, fucking bullshit. And I really the Kit Kat logo next to the F1 logo.
That's not a good
go
look.
Google it. Go Google it.
I've goggled it. I'm Googling it. I've been goggled. And it's literally just a Kit Kat logo beside the F1 logo. And it kind of works because they're both red and white. But
it does not work.
It's not it. Yeah,
it's not it.
When I think of Kit Kat, I do not think of driving fast. At least Monster, I'm like, oh yeah, let's get it. You know what I mean? But it ain't happening, dude. That's not it. Just imagine if Super Glue, Gorilla Glue, is sponsored by Formula One, and you're just like, what the fuck is this?
It's not NASCAR. That's NASCAR shit.
That's what I'm saying. This is NASCAR. Kit Kat and NASCAR, I'm here for it. Let's go.
Yeah, it makes way more sense for some reason.
Yes, man. Totally, dude.
I'm just trying to read the actual.
So what's the point? What are we trying to get at here? Now that we've brought up the fact that Kit Kat's going to be a sponsor, you hate it, I hate it. I think it's stupid as hell. I'm curious to see how they're going to make this happen. Are they going to give everyone Kit Kats at the race? I don't know. What does this mean for Kit Kat? Who cares?
By integrating its well-known slogan, "Have a break, have a Kit Kat," into the Formula One world, this partnership emphasizes the significance of taking a moment to pause.
That's not Formula One race. What do you mean moment to pause? We race by the thousandth of a second. What do you mean have a break? Unless every single pit stop is sponsored by Kit Kat and it has to be at least 5-second pit stop. Have a break.
Imagine
Kit Kat.
All the mechanics are they're ready, they're there. Car pulls in, click.
Yeah. Brain and a Kit Kat.
One for you,
an
one
entire
for me.
pack of Kit Kat before you're allowed to touch the car.
That's like that's the new penalty. It's not like a 5-second or 10-second penalty. It's like you get 2 Kit Kats.
Yes,
you guys gotta smash 2 Kit Kats.
You gotta consume 2 Kit Kats before you're allowed to touch the car. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I hate it. All right.
Yeah, I'm not.
Anything else? Anything else?
For Kit Kat, I'm out here.
Okay. Next thing I hate. And I don't know if I don't necessarily hate this in and of itself, but I just hate what it represents. Perhaps in Formula One, we'll talk about it. Niels Wittich, who is the F1 race director, has resigned, quote unquote resigned, but there's some talk that he was fired with 3 races to go. This kind of reinforces some of the instability that is existing inside of Formula One, and maybe in terms of the race director position and how things are what's what I'm looking for? Not stewarded. How rules are interpreted and enforced.
Yeah.
And it just makes me think what's happening at the FIA, that they cannot create stability in that position. It's such an important position.
Is he the replacement for the No Mikey No?
He was. So they replaced No Mikey No with 2 people, him and some other guy, Eduardo.
Sure, and I understood that because they didn't want one person to be making the calls. I totally understood that.
They wanted
one of those 2 people is now down.
Eduardo, the second of the 2, left like a year ago.
Oh, he barely made it.
Yeah, he bailed a while ago, and now it's just been Niels for about the last year or so. And now here he has resigned, quote unquote, been let go.
Yeah, he's been invited to leave.
Basically invited to leave.
Got you.
Yeah. So,
well, you know what? That kind of makes sense because there's been a lot of controversy. You know, we've chatted about it on previous episodes, and it's been an absolute dumpster fire in terms of any sort of consistency on calls and all that kind of stuff. So I can understand the pressure. This is one time where shit rolls uphill, right? And so like ultimately, you know, he would come under fire for sure. And I'm sure, you know, frustrations have been mounting in a big way over there at the stewards room at the FIA. So I totally get it, man, about why this guy wanted to bounce, or if he made a bad enough call and pissed somebody enough off that they said, bro, you got to bounce, man. We're going to invite you to leave. You can leave under your terms, so that the headlines for Formula One don't read Stewart got fired over Max and Lando fights.
So you think that's what it was?
100%, man. You know what? I don't think it's the Max and Lando fights. I just think it's been the inconsistency. And like, I think Max and Lando, their little predicaments have just highlighted the inconsistency. So I think like that would just be a catalyst of why and how, and now it's why it's happening right now. Because like you shouldn't be pulling this with three races left in the season, dude.
No, and that's the other part of it, right? There's one thing to kind of finish out the season, but to do it with 3 races left is a little weird. So my question back to you is this really a function of being a poor race director, or is it a function of having a rule book which is so up for interpretation, or which is unclear to the point that these kind of calls are able to be made? These kind of inconsistent calls are able to be made, right? Because at the end of the day, it's they're abiding by the rules that the FIA set out, right? And they're interpreting those rules.
Yeah.
So are they just taking the fall for inconsistent or unclear, ambiguous directives from the FIA?
Someone's got to catch the shit, man. Someone's going to throw it. Someone's got to catch it. And like ultimately, like, yeah, could it be the FIA's fault in terms of like not having clear enough guidelines and rules and regulations and all that stuff? Sure. But like, you're not firing anyone. Like, this is the guy. You're, you know, like when you're the boss at work and you have 3 subordinates and one of them screws up, like you got to answer to somebody. And like the manager is the one who catches the shit, dude. You know what I mean? Like, it's what it is.
I do, but it's also indicative of and we'll go back to like Mikey No, Mikey No, right? We'll go back, what has that been now? 3 years?
21,
right?
yeah.
So 21, like they've had a number of years to kind of find some stability in this position. And for whatever reason, whenever they bring somebody in, they're not lasting very long, right? So at
It's a
what
high
point does
pressure
that start
job,
to
man.
fall?
That's a
100%
high pressure
it
job.
is. Yeah.
Okay, let's take this. Okay, let's put this into another sport where let's go to hockey. So like you got a goal, and you got referees, and like there's people who make calls, and then you have this like instant replay judge, and then like they go upstairs, but like that room does not have one guy in it. It's got multiple guys in it making that call. And so like maybe it's time for Formula One to take a page out of somebody else's book, and they just like throw it out to this whatever. And like, dude, when those calls get made, when they go upstairs to the review room, when that call's made, it's final.
Yeah.
There's no like, let's wait 3 days and see if this guy gets to, to test this, and they're gonna bring this back up because of what? No, they made a call. There was 4 of them in there. They agreed that this was the best way. That's how it's gonna be.
Fair enough, but they have that as well, though, right? Because technically, it's not the race director making these calls on penalties, right? It's the stewards.
And how's that going for them?
Not well.
Not bueno. So they got to figure something out.
Anyways, do you have anything else to add to this?
No, I didn't. This poor bugger, man. He just got railroaded, I think, a little bit. Maybe, you know what? Maybe it was his choice to leave. Maybe he was just like, listen, I don't need this pressure. I'm rich. I'm going to go be rich. You know what I mean? Like, the second I'm like, I even have a little bit of money in my bank account and a client's giving me shit, I'm like, I don't need this shit. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like, it.
Yeah. Okay. So then going back to, I guess, one of my opening questions, like, so what does this mean for F1 moving forward, though?
They need to get somebody who loves this sport to help build that position and craft it in a way that is understood, that they are overarching, trying to keep the races fair, that the teams know what the rules are so that they can abide by said rules, and that any call made by the stewards and the FIA is all for the betterment of the sport. And I think that's what its intention is, but I think they've been falling short on that because they have been making some very questionable calls, and maybe some of these rules have been brought to light that they are a little ambiguous in that gray area. And it's an opportunity for them to start fresh, because like once these new reg changes come in 2026, like just use this as an opportunity. Obviously, they need to find somebody to head this position up. I'm sure that there's multiple people in that building who can figure it out, but they immediately have to find somebody to replace this guy, especially for the last 3 races of the season.
I think they brought the guy from who's currently the race director for F2 and F3. He's going to be filling in for the last 3 races. But I feel like if you're going through that many people in that many years,
there's something
at some point you have to start looking, to your point, looking up that chain. The shit has to roll a little further uphill so we find out exactly what's going on.
For sure, 100%.
Well, we will see. Let's talk about the FIA leadership a little bit. Another big headline this week was the driver's statements, the combined driver statement from the, what do they have? Their union, essentially.
Sure.
Call it that for now. Calling out Mohammed bin Suleiman for basically just treating them like children, right? There's been all
the swearing thing. Are we talking about that right now?
We're talking about the swearing thing, right? But he's picked like battles with all sorts of people over the years, whether it was swearing, whether it was Lewis and his like nose ring, whether it was, just making maybe some off-color statements about some of the drivers and their behavior. And these guys are just like, listen, man, leave us alone. We're grown-ups.
Yeah, you're a clown. Get out of my face. Don't be mad at me because I'm rich. Like, fuck out of here. You know what I mean? It's one of those, but I get it. But like, let's take this in and like, let's go back to another sport. You got the guys in basketball, and then you got the guys in the NFL, and every league treats their athletes very differently. You know what I mean? Like the guys in the NBA, they roll in some crazy outfits that would make Lewis Hamilton cry. You know what I mean? Like just some wild outfits. And then you got the guys in hockey. Nobody wears wild outfits. They all wear a black, blue, or gray suit. And that's just
because hockey athletes are boring, though.
Hell yeah, but like it's just an expectation. I'm sure there's a few of those hockey athletes that would wear whatever they want if they could, but that's just like this is how we roll. And that's fine. And if you want F1 to be like that, then be like that. But you can't like give and take and then this and that and like it is or it isn't. You can't like change the game as things are happening. Like and then one guy swears and then it's a whole thing and then oh well then this guy said that and then it just becomes this whole pissing contest and like I'm not here for that. I'm all for keeping sports professional. I think kids watch the sport and I think that they need to have athletes to look up to. Though I think that the odd swear word here and there is okay because, well, that's just how things go. 100%, especially when these guys are upset and, you know, there's tons of adrenaline going on and crazy stuff just happened or they may or may have not have just had a turning point in their season or their career. Yeah, they're going to get heated and they might say some offside shit. That's just what happens. But I also think, too, that there needs to be some sort of reasonableness. Like, I think if one of the drivers goes on like a swearing tangent and like starts screaming up in the media tent and just like cussing people out and stuff like that, draw a line. Hey, this is unacceptable behavior. But like the odd guy makes a comment about whatever, then like it's whatever. I just think that, you know, bugging Lewis about his nose ring and then all of a sudden it might be like a tattoo on somebody's hand or like, that's not how I'm here to support. Let these guys do what they want. They're all their own people. It's a very different thing in terms of like the team sport where like you don't have 37 guys in like a football team or something like that. Like you got 2 drivers and then generally the teams all wear the same stuff as far as like the mechanics are concerned and like the tech director, all those guys, like they all wear like a pretty much a uniform, let's call it, right? And then the drivers walk in with some funky style. They're in their little like do boardwalk. And then, you know, then they get into their racing suits and they're all wearing the same stuff anyway. So, like, let the boys be boys.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think, so Max got, I think they call it like community service for swearing in the press conference?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Do you think he deserves to get community service for swearing in a official F1 press conference, blah, 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 blah?
That's one thing I can get behind. Because if you're going to penalize these guys, give back to your point of like that whole O2 Arena thing, like then just really give back. And like, I think if, you know, Max had to go sign autographs for another couple hours or go do like a whatever, then like, so be it. And like, give it back to the fans or like the local area. Like, I don't know if you remember Sebastian Vettel when they were in the Middle East. I can't remember what race they were doing. And like, they were over there and they got, I think it was during the COVID time. And all of a sudden, you know, this was like the month before women were just allowed to drive. Like they had just won the right that women were allowed to drive. And he took all these girls and showed them how to go-kart. And it was like the first time women were racing in this country. And like, he wasn't even told to do that. But like, that to me is giving back to the country that you're in, that's given you an opportunity to drive and race and have your career. And I just think that like things like that are fine. But that's to your point of
do you think Max should have actually been penalized, regardless of what he does in his free time? But do you think he should have been penalized and for swearing at a press conference?
Nah, man.
Nah. Okay.
Nah.
That's my question.
Yeah.
But a good answer, regardless. I think one of the other issues the drivers were having, which was part of this joint statement, was they were kind of noting the increased incidence of fines during racing events. You know, you get, you know, $5,000 fine here, another $5,000 here,
£5,000 fine,
£5,000,
like 10 grand Canadian,
like 10 grand Canadian. And it's not even about the amount, because obviously these guys can afford it, but it's more so the transparency of where these fines are going, and they want more transparency. So if you are going to fine me for swearing, if you are going to fine me for, you know, this activity on track or whatever it is, or infractions at the pit stop or procedural infractions, we want to know where this money is going, and we want to make sure it's not just going back to the FIA, because otherwise there is a biased incentive for the FIA to just hand out fines, knowing that it's going to kind of head to their bottom line, versus, okay, we know that all these fines are going to be going towards this charity or that charity.
And that's something I can get behind.
And I think for sure
they should be doing, you know, wherever their race is in that time, I think they should be doing the local charities to, you know, and then pick a direction. So if it's like, helping underprivileged kids get into sports, sure. If it's helping, local food banks with like homeless or whatever the situation is, keep it in the same direction, but just help whatever charity in that country kind of fits the direction. Because I think, getting, young guys into sports or young, kids into sports, sure. I think that really fits to what's going on, or like helping with their education or something like that. Cool. And then just do that in every country.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, there's always going to be tension between the FIA and the Drivers Association and the drivers, right? So this is just the latest chapter in what's going on there. I'm looking at my list, and I feel like we've kind of covered all the things I hate. Do you have any other things that you think I might hate?
No, but I will take this opportunity to shout out the Discord. We got a bunch of cool people in the Discord. If you haven't checked it out yet, please jump on. We have some really cool people talking F1 24/7, and the link will be in the show notes. If you aren't in Discord yet, check it out. If you are, or if you're not in Discord, then go into Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We got everything. So if you want to look at us, our beautiful faces, the guy in the blue shirt, the guy who's always wearing the hat. If you want to not see subtitles anymore, that's the place to check it out. F1 True North. Yeah, let's go.
F1 True North. There we go. So that's it. I think you said it all. That's been another episode.
I was going to say, like, we could do a single version of Name That Sponsor, but I don't need a bigger lead than I already have, buddy.
But we can't do that. That would just be mean.
No, I don't. No, it would be so mean.
You just lock it out.
Yeah. It's already locked out.
It is pretty much locked out. Yeah. You've got the championship in hand. Yeah. Well, that's it. This has been another episode of Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast.